What's up, everybody? Welcome to From the Archive, the series in which I'm going to go through my personal stash, an archive of books, whether it's wargame related or not, and pick one and share it with you all, like talk about it, things of that nature. Over the years of being, a nerd and into this hobby and whatnot, I've amassed a collection of books, and for one reason or another, I tend to keep them, and whether or not I even really enjoy them, I just tend to keep them because I like physical, tangible books on stuff. And a lot of these books, pretty much all these books you're looking at here in one way or another, has helped shape my personal tastes, thoughts, and ideas when it comes to collecting miniatures in this wargaming hobby, maybe as direct inspiration or just something in the back of my mind. So I thought it would be cool as I unpack these things to share them with you. So what I'm going to do in each ramble, I'm going to pick one book kind of haphazardly, and I'm gonna go sit down at the table with you, and we're gonna look through it. I'm gonna give a basic thought synopsis on it, share my opinions on it, break it down a little bit, maybe look inside of it a little, and just talk about it, whether it's a novel, a codex, or a tabletop RPG book or whatever. So some of these books I have multiples of for some reason, not really sure why. Other books I do not, and it's just going to be some fun. I thought it'd be cool to kind of get some insight, perhaps, and share my thoughts on stuff that I have in my small little personal collection here, and for you all to share your thoughts as well on what I'm looking at when it comes to the book in question. What you have? Do you have the same book? What are your thoughts on it? And things like that. So this should be a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab one of these books, and I'll meet you at the table. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the table. And with all the Star Wars stuff recently in the past few months, I thought, why not do a Star Wars archive, from the archive ramble, because I'm a big fan of Star Wars. Always have been since I can remember as a little kid. And this is one of my favorite Star Wars books because it is something that really kind of helps you have the galaxy feel more lived in for the Star Wars universe and everything like that. It is something that today would be considered a Legends book, right? It was expanded universe even then because it included stuff outside of the movies. But I think it would be considered Legends nowadays because the stuff it talks about, I should say, don't go that way. Because it does go beyond episode 6. So it would go to the point of stuff that maybe could have happened, but won't, that don't go that way for episode 7, 8, and 9. Even stuff like Star Wars Rebels and the like probably would run counter to some of the things we see here. So, anyways, with that said, this is a book that came out in 1996 roughly, and I've owned it basically since then. This is right around about a 24-year-old book. Older, I'm assuming, than a decent amount of people that might be watching this ramble. Potentially. The probability is very high for that, or very much near your age. So it is pre-7, 8, and 9 by a long shot. And it's even before episodes 1, 2, and 3. So it's definitely before episode 1. Episode 1 was, 99 or so? And this is 96. So if anything, episode 1 was a very early idea at this time. And it doesn't include anything from that. So this is something that if it came out today would talk about how it's episodes 4, 5, and 6 or something. Or original trilogy guide to vehicles and vessels, or Legends, expanded lore, original trilogy, yada yada yada. Anyways, what I like about this book is not just a bunch of really cool pictures, which of course it is, like drawing wise I should say. It's not pictures but drawings. And which it does alphabetically. So all we see here is table of contents. So if you want to jump right to the IG 2000, you could. If you want to go right to the Imperial Star Destroyer or the Interdictor Cruiser or the Victory Star Destroyer or Slave 2, you could. And I point out Slave 2 because Slave 2 is Boba Fett's ship. And that's because at this time when this was a thing, Boba Fett escapes the Sarlacc pit to try and seek vengeance on Han Solo and gets the Slave 2 to do that. And that's how it will always be in my heart, no matter where Star Wars goes canonly with stuff. I will always believe in Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit. I don't care. But anyways, that said, we have a timeline, and for the astute, you notice it does stuff. It chronicles the timeline before Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, and then after Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Nowadays, everything is BBY, ABY, before Battle of Yavin, after Battle of Yavin, and the Battle of Yavin happened Star Wars Episode 4. But it calls out specifically that battle. This just calls out before that movie and then after that movie. So it's, I assume, the precursor to BBY, ABY, and it's probably close enough to that, if you will. But just wanted to point it out. What's cool is there's a guide here telling you what a capital ship is, like what the different classes of ship mean, some technology like ion cannons, what that means, and hyperdrives and the like. And it's cool to give you some basic knowledge. Whether or not that's 100% accurate to the canon today, I don't know, but I'm sure it's close enough and works well enough, whatever. And then major manufacturers. This feels very much like Battletech. And while Battletech doesn't call it out like this, when you read on the lore of specifically Inner Sphere mechs and their equipment, it's all done with a certain company. Like some companies Mark IV large laser or whatever, right? Or Mark III version of their engines. The I can't think of it. The fusion engines or whatever it is that they use. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, or whatever version of a heat sink. My point is here it calls out specifically, and for this book, whatever they make is called out. So Alderaan Royal Engineers made the Hosk Station. Whereas the big one for the Empire was Signer Fleet Systems, made a bunch of Star Destroyers and the different ties and everything else. So it's just cool. Again, it makes it feel more lived in. You can read a brief blurb about them and in this book what they made. That's just really cool. So with that said, the very first one we see is the AT-AT. I'll use this as the example, and I'll give a few more. I wish I could page through it page by page. We'd be here all day. The AT-AT, it gives you, of course, a fluff blurb breakdown, a cool piece of art, and then a schematic, if you will. And side view, front view, back, rear view. It goes into what you're looking at. So, and it points it out, like here are your medium blaster, here's a heavy laser cannon. This is a knee joint, in case you didn't know. This is an escape hatch. It's not just some panel, those are escape hatches. This is a boarding hatch. That is a vehicle bay. So it calls things out. And I really like that. It makes it, again, feel more lived in, feel more true to life. Of course, it's all fiction, but still very, very cool. And it does that for everything. The ATPT transport, which we only see, I believe, in video games. And of course, the famous chicken walker, the ATSC, which has a light blaster cannon, twin blaster cannons, and a concussion grenade launcher that I don't think we really see used ever, if at all, maybe, I don't know. And it goes into stuff we probably haven't seen before. We've seen the B-Wing, but where is it? There's the A-Wing. There's the Amphibion. This thing I thought was hilariously cool because it's a boat. What's so special about a boat? Nothing. But in Star Wars, if it doesn't have tracks, or it doesn't walk, and it doesn't just fly, it hovers. So to have a boat, it just seems so random out of all that, and I think that's pretty funny. Anyways, it goes over stuff from cruisers to Dash Rendar's Outrider, to Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, which is a TIE Advanced prototype type setup. The Death Star, of course, Death Star 2, a prototype. And then where is it? It's a desert skiff. So it goes over a bunch of really cool things, such as the E-Wing, the Eclipse Star Destroyer, very scary looking and awesome. Enforcer 1, and then the Escape Pod. It goes from Star Destroyers to Escape Pod. A boat, Luke Skywalker's Land Speeder, and Millennium Falcon. It covers a lot of stuff, which is really cool. Your Probot, if you will. Rebel Blockade Runner, of course. And it goes on and on. Shield ships. It has Cloud Cities in here. There's Slave 2, Speak of the Devil. A speeder bike. a battle droid, a C-Ruby battle droid, and then the ships that they're in, the picket ships and the like. Sun Crusher, an Imperial super weapon prototype, and so on and so on. And of course the TIE Bombers, a tank droid because why not? And then what I really find hilarious, and we see it in a strategy game, the TIE Crawler. But yeah, it just goes over a lot of stuff. If you play X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, you might notice some of these starships. If you've done some of the video games out there, you might notice certain things. The TIE D is called that because it's a TIE droid unit. Kind of interesting. The classic TIE Fighter, and my personal favorite, the TIE Interceptor. It was really cool. Victory Star Destroyer, called out specifically different from the Imperial Star Destroyer. The Headhunter, the Y-Wing, of course the classic X-Wing. Of the Rebel ships, which are not my favorite, from capital ship down to the fighters, I prefer the Imperial designs, to be honest with you. I just like them better design-wise. But when it comes to Rebel ships, my favorite is gotta be the Y-Wing fighter, the little rough and tough semi-truck-esque looking fighter that in the movies goes down like nothing, like everything else does. It doesn't matter how they describe it, everything gets destroyed in one shot, it seems. But I just really love the Y-Wing. It's my personal favorite. And then there's the medical frigates in here, but it's not called that specifically. I don't know if I can find it in the limited time I have. Again, I don't want to be here all day doing this. This is a Rebel Snowspeeder. Pretty cool, modified T-47 Snowspeeder. There it is, the Rebel Cruiser, which turns out to be the medical frigate a lot, but it's just a Rebel Cruiser. My favorite kind of cruiser setup, of course, Millennium Falcon. This Jawa Sandcrawler, which is such a cool design. But anyways, my favorite of like these cruisers out there, I love Star Destroyers. They're really awesome. And there's the IG-2000 I brought up, I think. Imperial Landing Craft, which we've seen. There's the Imperial Star Destroyer, called out different from the Victory class Star Destroyer. Again, really, really cool stuff. But I really like the Interdictor Cruiser, which we don't, I believe, ever see in a movie. We might have, and I might be being wrong and not remembering, but I really love the Interdictor Cruiser. It is equipped with gravity wells, so if you're in hyperspace and you come in your hyperspace coordinates take you by one of these with their gravity wells active, you get pulled out of hyperspace, and then you can't jump to hyperspace if you're within the radius of one of these and it's active. It's not a tractor beam, it doesn't pull you towards it, it just keeps you in sublight drive only, which is really cool. So I just really like that concept. Anyways, lots of cool stuff in here. The Mon Calamari Cruiser, of course. We have E-Wing fighters, the Eclipse Star Destroyer, and the Escape Pod. You know, again, it's just an expanded B-Wing fighter and the Executor. Really cool stuff. The TIE Fighter designs with the TIE Interceptor are probably my favorite of the fighters in Star Wars, even with the First Order stuff, which is basically it's the same, repaint through the extra tech. So that would catch a lot of flack. And then the Star Destroyers are probably my favorite cruiser capital ship designs in sci-fi period. I think they're probably my favorites, and they're just gigantic triangular shapes, but I just love them. I don't know why, I think they're really cool looking. So anyways, this has been the Star Wars Essential Guide to Vehicles and Vessels. I know there is some miniature gaming for Star Wars, whether it's space battle stuff. I think there's some land battle stuff. So this is a nice little thing to look at. That's Hosk Station, by the way. This is a Battle Dragon, a Happen Battle Dragon, which we never see, but I'm not saying this is going to be what you don't need this to play any of those games, but if you want a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of expanded lore stuff, if you will, classic expanded lore stuff for maybe what you're playing or are interested in, this is really cool. If you're a scratch builder or a modifier of things and you want to convert for sci-fi games, you can use some of these as inspiration for designs, right? Like this Stinger here, or the Battle Dragon, or the Nebulon Ranger, and the list, anything really. It's just really cool if you want to scratch build, do whatever. A lot of really cool designs for you. Anyway, that's Star Wars Essential Guide to Vehicles and Vessels, circa 1996. Not up to date, obviously. Only 4, 5, and 6, and some expanded universe stuff was around at that time. That's all the focus is on. Really cool book. You might be able to find it on eBay. I highly doubt Amazon, but hey, you could try. If you're a Star Wars fan and you weren't around or you're way too young at this time, it's definitely a cool book. I wouldn't spend a fortune on it. I don't know the exact pricing of it. It was 18 bucks back in the day, which is pretty cheap for this size book, especially nowadays. But yeah, it describes the development and historical importance of each vehicle here and detailed illustrations, which is pretty cool. I wouldn't go crazy spending a lot of money on it, but it's just a cool book to have as a Star Wars fan. I've had it since I was a kid. Really enjoy it. I thumb through it a lot because it's just cool to see the pictures and try to trace and withdraw them and fail horribly. So, do you own this book? Do you own, I believe, the other one, which I think was like uniforms and like? I forget. Share it in the comments section. Anyways, hopefully you've enjoyed. I assume some of you out there are Star Wars fans, just by assumption only. But really cool book. I love books like this with just the schematics and information and all that jazz. I just love those style of books. So, anyways, that's it for this one. And until next time, take it easy.